Nwabueze sat beside the sick bed of the ailing woman, wondering how they got to this, and if they could ever be able to go back to the harmony he thought had been restored to his father's house. But it had all turned out to be a charade. As he sat thinking, the older woman stared and with pain-filled eyes looked at the young man sitting down beside her, lost in thought. Her heart missed a beat, and she prayed fervently that her mistakes can be corrected, even if it meant she pays with her life. "Where's my child?" she called to him weakly. Nwabueze recalled himself and looked down at the figure calling him child. He was surprised it doesn't get him nearly as angry as it used to. But now he will hear her out, so he simply said, "I am listening. Please, can you call me mother one last time? That is all I ask of you," she pleaded sadly. How it all started. In a bustling Nigerian town, young Nwabueze grew up in a household filled with tension and emotional distance. His family lived in a modest home where the walls often echoed with unspoken resentment and the air thick with a palpable sense of unease. Nwabueze's father, Chukwudi, was a stern man who valued culture and tradition above all else. He was a traditionalist who believed that a man should never show vulnerability or emotion. So from an early age, Chukwudi drilled his belief into Nwabueze, often repeating, "A man must bear his burden in silence, so he will not be labeled a weakling." Nwabueze's mother, Ifama, was a woman of sharp words and cold glares. She was known for her harsh countenance and quick temper. While she was affectionate towards Nwabueze's siblings, her interactions with him were marked by a noticeable lack of warmth and frequent shouting. Nwabueze, puzzled by this unfairness, often felt like an outsider in his own home, but he learned to internalize his pain, bottling up his emotions as his father had taught him. He stopped complaining when his father always ridiculed him by telling him to stop behaving like a woman. Despite the coldness at home, Nwabueze found solace in his life outside the home and occasional moments of laughter with his friends. However, the emotional neglect and constant criticism began to take a toll on him. His grades in school began to be affected, and he found it increasingly difficult to focus on his studies. And realizing that he couldn't cope with school anymore, Nwabueze made a bold decision. He approached his father and expressed his desire to leave school and learn trade. Chukwudi, though disappointed, was encouraged by Ifoma to let the boy have his way, and surprised by the unusual support, Chukwudi had relented and arranged for Nwabueze to apprentice under his brother Emeka, who ran a successful trading business in Onitsha. Moving to Onitsha was a turning point for Nwabueze because Uncle Emeka, a kind and patient man, treated Nwabueze with the respect and encouragement he had always yearned for. Under his uncle's mentorship, Nwabueze thrived. He quickly learned the intricacies of the trade, from negotiation tactics to managing finances, and his natural intelligence and determination shone through. His uncle's business, which had been shaking over the years, began to see a good turnaround because Nwabueze ensured the other Nwaboys, that is, the apprentices, didn't cheat or steal like they used to, and this ensured that the business thrived and grew. Over the years, Nwabueze's hard work paid off. He was settled well, as was the custom, by his uncle Emeka, who he served, and within a short period of time of being settled, he had established himself as a reliable businessman. He saved diligently, invested wisely, and gradually expanded his business. He always had a keen eye for good business, and whenever he saw one, he never hesitated to invest in it. By the time he reached his 30s, he had built an impressive trading empire, becoming one of the wealthiest men in the market and even in his entire community. His success brought him not only financial security, but also a sense of pride and fulfillment that he had never known before. As Nwabueze grew in stature, he never forgot his roots. In spite of the struggles he had endured there, he became a pillar of support for his family, taking on the role of breadwinner and ensuring that his siblings had the best he could afford. Every opportunity he had missed out on, he had ensured that they didn't. Despite his strained relationship with Ifoma, his mother, he provided adequately for her every need, driven by a deep-seated sense of duty and compassion. However, the emotional wounds from his childhood never fully healed. Nwabueze often wondered why his mother had treated him so differently, but he kept these questions buried deep within, adhering to his father's teachings about bearing burdens in silence until he married Juliet. Nwabueze had always admired Juliet, the daughter of the woman who sold food to him and many others in the bustling market of Onitsha. Since his early days as an apprentice in his uncle's shop, he had noticed her. Juliet was a striking girl with a disciplined demeanor that set her apart from others. She was often seen helping her mother, Mrs. Okafor, serving food with an efficiency and focus that left little room for distractions. From the moment he first saw her, Nwabueze was captivated. Juliet's beauty was evident, but it was her unwavering dedication and strong moral principles that truly drew him to her. Unlike other girls her age who were also helping their mothers in the market or secretaries in other shops, who were always seen, interested or flirting or engaging in idle chatter, Juliet remained resolute in her purpose. If she came to your shop to deliver food, her business with you was strictly that food and the money you owed. Any attempt to engage her in any other conversation often met with a sharp rebuke. And boy, does she have a sharp mouth on her. You can never win Juliet when it comes to snide remarks and sarcasm. It is either you liked her or you hated her. There was no in between. Why some of the boys, the apprentices, and even some of the ogas with the masters in the shops found her behavior off-putting and labeled her as arrogant and rude. Nwabueze saw something different. To him, Juliet was a highly principled girl, respectful and diligent, only asserting herself when someone overstepped the boundaries. He admired her resolve and the way she managed to maintain her dignity in an environment that often demanded otherwise. Her mother, Mrs. Okafor, was renowned for her cooking skills, and her food was one of the best in the entire market. This meant that despite Julia's perceived arrogance, people had little choice but to tolerate her. They needed her mother's food, and so they danced to her tune, grudgingly accepting her terms with respect. As time passed, Nwabueze's admiration for Juliet only grew. He watched her from a distance, respecting her boundaries but hoping for an opportunity to know her better one day. His chance finally came one late afternoon. When the market was winding down, Juliet came by to deliver the last order of the day to Uncle Emeka's shop. The shop was less busy, giving Nwabueze the perfect opportunities to strike up a conversation without intruding on her duties. Good evening, Juliet. He had greeted her with a warm smile. Thank you for the food. Your mother's cooking is truly the best. Juliet looked up, momentarily caught off guard by the genuine kindness in his eyes. Thank you, she replied, her tone softening. I will let her know you said that, even though the compliment wasn't news to them anymore, but she was glad he said it. But Nwabueze was a young man, even her mother respected and admired as a result of how hard he works, and he was known for his integrity throughout the market. It is usually said, if Nwabueze sold a pin for any amount, then it is truly what it was. So having him talk to her was a surprise, which was why she didn't hesitate to break from her usual character and chat with him. Everybody that saw them talking were shocked because everyone knows Juliet does not talk with boys. Seizing the opportunity, though, Nwabueze continued, ignoring the glances they were getting. I have always admired how dedicated you are. It is not easy to balance school and work, but you do it so well. Juliet paused what she was doing, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. It is not easy, oh, but it is necessary. My mother needs the help, and I have my responsibilities as well. They have spoken for long, and from that day on, a tentative friendship began to form between them. Oboze made sure to respect Juliet's boundaries, and in return, she began to open up to him bit by bit. They found common ground in their shared experiences of responsibility, hard work, and integrity. And when he was finally settled and he had established his business and was ready to get married, he had only one woman in mind, Juliet. He had gone to her mother to let her know of his intentions, and the woman had rejoiced in her heart, knowing that if her daughter agrees with the proposal, she would have found for herself a very good man. But she knew her daughter enough not to interfere. Unknowingly to her, though, Juliet had been harboring feelings for Nwabueze, but refused to show it so as to protect her dignity if it turns out he didn't feel the same way. So it was quite a shock to her family that the almighty Juliet agreed to marry a man without any serious work or cutting from the said man. However, back at home, not everyone was pleased with Nwabueze's choice of companionship. His mother, Ifoma, had other plans for him. She had her heart set on a girl, a daughter friend from their village, someone she deemed more suitable and of a higher social standing. When Ifoma learned of Nwabueze's growing affection for Juliet and of his intentions to marry her, she was furious. This girl is not right for you. She is a common fruit seller's daughter. Who knows what kind of life she had lived while doing that work in that market? You know how all those ogas and their boys does. And all those girls, they cannot be trusted. They can do and come out and pretend before your face. Before ma scolded him one evening. She's just a market girl and you deserve better. Obreze, on his part, stood firm, which was very unlike him. And he responded, Juliet is more than just a market girl, Mama. She is a girl that I have known for a long time and she's not like those girls you're talking about. She's hardworking, respectful, and very principled. I know what I am saying. And it is her that I want. Ifeoma's disapproval grew stronger and she eventually threatened not to participate in the marriage rites if Mwabueze insisted on marrying Juliet. Desperate to marry the woman he loved, Mwabueze turned to his father for support. He begged Chukwudi to intervene, knowing that his father's word held significant weight. Chukwudi, though initially reluctant, saw the earnest love and determination in his son's eyes. He decided to speak to Ifeoma. Let this boy marry who he loves. You are not the one who will live with them. Let him make his own choice. He is a man now, so leave him alone. We should support him in this choice because I know that Nwabueze will not bring a bad girl back home. After much persuasion and seeing the depth of Nwabueze's commitment, Ifeoma finally relented. She grudgingly agreed to participate in the marriage. The day of the traditional marriage rites arrived, and despite her initial objections, Ifeoma attended, but was very reluctant about most things she was supposed to as the mother of the groom, but then never dampened the happy celebration of the young couple. Nwabueze and Juliet's reunion were blessed in the presence of family and friends and the community at large. As they embarked on their new journey together, Nwabueze felt a profound sense of fulfillment and gratitude. He had fought for his love and won, paving the way for a future filled with hope and love and unity. At last, he has his own person who saw him for who he truly is, a woman who loves him and who would listen to him. It was something he never had all his life. 3 years later, Juliet, Abby, what are they calling you? How dare you enter that kitchen without my permission? Ifeoma screamed as she walked briskly towards the kitchen, almost tripping in her haste. If I should fall down, if I should fall down because of you, your entire father's homeowner, that is his kinsmen, will not be able to pay the price it will require. Do you think because it was your husband that renovated and furnished this place, I don't have a right over it anymore? She continued to query as she entered the kitchen. Juliet, already tired of the whole drama, just stood up from where she sat as she awaited her mother-in-law's entrance. Because meeting her seated would provoke another round of offense, and she was really fed up. 3 years of this, she was tired. Are you not the one I am asking this question? Hmm. Or am I too small now to ask you questions? Your husband is the breadwinner, so I should go and dine and acquire. Is that right? She asked, getting more angry. Mommy, ask her, oh, because me, I don't even understand what she means. By the foodstuff she bought, she can't eat that of, Ogonna said, standing solidly behind her mother. Juliet looked in shock at the person she had thought was her only friend in the midst of what had turned out to be a pack of wolves. And then she understood where all her problem has been coming from. But she will deal with the lying whistle later. For now, she has to make her mother-in-law understand her. Mama, it is not like that, please. Let me explain what I meant, Juliet said gently, hoping for a chance to prove her innocence. Explain what? Is it not exactly what you said? Or are you trying to call my daughter a liar? But Mama, this is not fair now. The way you are treating me is not fair at all. But before she could finish, the next thing she felt on her face were hot slaps. Juliet, because of the unexpected reaction, missed a step and fell on the ground, hitting her head on the kitchen counter. For the longest minute, she felt so disoriented and lightheaded. Will you stand up from there and stop pretending, you wicked witch? Ifeoma thundered again. Juliet managed to stand up and suddenly ran out of the place. Running as much as she could manage into her room, she locked the door behind her. Seconds later, she heard banging on the door, but she walked slowly towards the bed, ignoring the banging, even though it was beginning to add to the headache starting to grip her head. She laid back on the bed, suddenly feeling very tired. She felt a wetness on her laps, but she was too tired to check, so she allowed the sleep to claim her, becoming instantly oblivious to her environment. Outside the room, Abigail and Ogonna, now joined by Ogechi, were hurling insult at the silent Juliet, daring her to open the door if she wants to die, while hitting their fists on the locked door intervally. What is going on here? Nwabueze boomed, standing at the entrance gate, shocked at the drama taking place in front of his room. He had actually been standing there for a full 10 minutes, his brain unable to comprehend what was happening until he was able to pick one or two words before his mind reactivated enough to gather a reaction. His father and younger brother, who had stopped to greet a relative, quickly followed when they heard him shout. I do not want to repeat myself, he boomed again, his body shaking from the anger he was fighting to keep inside. He had had enough of this. If there is any danger to his wife, he's not going to tolerate it anymore. As he was asking them questions, he was walking towards the room. Is it not Juliet? Ogechi, who was not even around at the onset of the matter, began to explain. That stupid woman you brought here had the guts to slap Mama. And when Ogo wanted to retaliate, she pushed her down and ran inside, locking the door. They, we will not take this one, no. See, Mama's wrapper all dirty and wet. She held her mother by the shoulder and turned her around for all to see. But Nwabueze was already at the door of his room, knocking gently and asking Juliet to open. My love, please open the door. I am here now, he said gently, thinking she was afraid. That's why she refused to open the door. Ifeoma, on sighting her husband and son, began to wail. She wants to kill me, oh. What have I done to offend her? She continued to weep as her son Uchenna came to hug her and began to console her. We will get to the root of this, Mama, he whispered into her ears. She will not get away with it this time. But by this time, Nwabueze was hitting the door hard, getting worried by the second. He does not understand why his wife wasn't responding even when she heard his voice. Was it that she was that upset, or was there something wrong? His father, seeing how agitated he was becoming, told him to calm down while he goes to get the spare key. When he returned, they used a long iron for drying meat over the fire to push the inner key out, and at last he gained entrance. Nwabueze froze at the sight before him. All he could see was blood everywhere. There was blood on the bed, on the floor. My God, someone shouted from behind. That seemed to have woken him up from his dazed state, and he rushed towards his wife and gently lifted her from the bed, fearing the worst. His heart was beating twice in a second, and his whole frame was shaking from that fear. He whispered her name gently, trying to carry her up as gently as possible. Please, baby, please say something, he begged, almost crying. His father took charge immediately, telling Uchenna to help his brother lift Juliet so they could rush her to the hospital. But Nwabueze refused and lifted her from the bed by himself, being as gentle as possible, not knowing where it hurt. Meanwhile, Abigail and her daughters had stayed back in fear, not understanding what had happened. They looked at each other, unable to decipher from where the water had entered the melon's head. They watched, their hearts in their hands, as Mabweze and the other men quickly entered the vehicle and drove off in a haste. Ah, Ifoma shouted, I have used my hand to buy trouble. Oh. Hey, Ogo, Oge, we have entered a hot pot of soup. How are we going to defend this one now? She continued to lament, sitting down on the bare floor, rolling herself in helplessness. Mama, please get up. Stop crying as if someone died, Ogo said, trying to lift her mother from the floor. How do you know she's not dead, eh? Ifoma sat up, looking at her daughter. Didn't you see her? And the amount of blood around her. But Mama, I have never seen that amount of blood before, Ogo said, wondering, but what could have happened to her? After all, you only slapped her twice and she fell down. There was no blood when she pushed us down and ran into the room, she said, still pondering on the whole event, confused. Who will you tell that one and they will believe you? Ifoma queried no one in particular. Why the word is going to claim I have committed murder, she said. If I had known, I would have left her alone. Oh. She laid back on the floor and began to roll all over again. That wicked girl has succeeded in doing what she always wanted to do, turning Big Brother against us. So she went to commit suicide so that the blame will be on Mama and us, but she will fail. Just as she had failed at producing even one child for 3 whole years, Oge stated, smiling to herself. What are we going to do, my children? Ifoma said, looking between her daughters. Mama, don't worry, everything will be sorted out. We will simply say it as it happened. I mean, the door was locked, right? So how would we have killed her and locked the door from behind, Oko said. The farmer stood up now, nodding her head. That is true. That is very true, my daughter. We will go with what Oge has said. She tried to kill herself because she was afraid when she pushed me down. Yes, that is what we will do. Ifeoma concluded, drying her eyes and dusting her body, her mind calming down with the possibility of a solution to their predicament. They all trudged quietly to the sitting room, waiting for those that went to the hospital, anxiety eating up at them. Meanwhile, minutes or hours or days later, Juliet couldn't tell. She just heard her husband's voice calling to her from a very distant place. She wondered why his voice was so dim. His has always been one of the deepest voices she has ever heard. She tried to turn her head but stopped immediately when she felt a splitting pain. She must have winced out. She heard another voice saying, She's awake, she's awake. Juliet pondered again. Why are the voices so dim? But before she could think further, darkness claimed her. Nwabueze was not even trying to hide his tears now. The relief coursing through him cannot be described, because when he had carried her motionless body into the car, he had felt his world crumbling and standing motionless at the same time. He had prayed more than he had ever done in his entire life, bringing every covenant of life he could remember into focus. He pleaded, bargained, and shouted, all in his mind, because he couldn't find the right words to utter. so he just groaned in his spirit. It was in this state he heard his father saying, "She was awake, she was awake." And when he had looked down at her, he saw her wings. He had released all that emotion he had held back in a muffled cry, holding her tightly, grateful and hopeful. They only needed to get to the hospital now. As they sped towards the destination, Uchenna drove like a madman, weaving through traffic with reckless abandon. And for once, Nwabueze was grateful for his brother's dangerous driving. Every car seemed to part before them, as if no one wanted to risk a collision with their frantic journey, and Nwabueze couldn't be more relieved. The hospital they were heading to was almost 2 hours away under normal conditions, but Uchenna managed to get them there in less than an hour. Nwabueze noted this absent-mindedly as he glanced at his watch, a small flicker of gratitude amidst his worry. His father had called his longtime friend, who was the head of the emergency department at the hospital. Thanks to this connection, the emergency staff was prepared for their arrival. As they arrived, the car screeched to a halt at the hospital entrance. Uchenna Nwabueze quickly helped a barely conscious Juliet out of the back seat. A nurse, alerted by the call, was waiting with a stretcher and swiftly took Juliet inside, the team following closely behind. Nwabueze paced anxiously in the waiting area, his mind racing with a mixture of fear and frustration. Jenna stood beside him, his face lined with concern, every minute stretching into what felt like an eternity. Finally, a doctor emerged from the emergency room, his expression serious yet reassuring. "She has a concussion and some bruises, but she will be all right. We'll keep her under observation overnight to ensure there are no complications." A wave of relief washed over Nwabueze. "Thank you. Thank you so much, doctor. Oh, can I see her now?" "Yes, but for only a few minutes. She needs rest," the doctor replied. "And I would like to speak privately with her husband or a guardian," the doctor said. "Okay, doctor," Nwabueze replied, already walking towards the room the doctor had indicated, eager to see his wife. Nwabueze entered the room quietly, his heart aching at the sight of Juliet lying on the bed, her face swollen but pale. He pulled up a chair and sat beside her, taking her hand gently in his. "I am so sorry, sweetheart," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "I promise you things will get better. I will never allow this to happen again." Juliet's eye fluttered open. She managed a weak smile. As he held her hand, Nwabueze made a silent vow to protect her and ensure their home became a place of peace and love. After a few minutes, Juliet drifted off to sleep again. Nwabueze decided to use the opportunity to go see what the doctor wanted to discuss with him. His father and Uchenna had come back to the house to bring some of Juliet's clothing and possibly food. Arriving at the doctor's office, Nwabueze wasted no time. "Doctor, you wanted to see me?" The doctor took a deep breath and went straight to the point. "I am sorry, Mr. Nwabueze. Your wife's body went through a lot of stress as a result of the blood loss and trauma to her head. Your baby might not make it, but we are still observing her. I just wanted you to be aware so that you can prepare yourself just in case anything." Nwabueze interrupted, looking lost. "I'm sorry, doctor. What are you talking about? I don't understand." The doctor was momentarily at a loss for words, unsure where Nwabueze's confusion was coming from. Before he could explain further, Nwabueze continued, "I don't know about any baby. Are you saying my wife is pregnant?" The doctor's expression softened with understanding. "Yes, Mr. Nwabueze. Your wife is in the early stages of pregnancy. Given the trauma she experienced, there is a risk of miscarriage. We are doing everything we can to monitor and support her, but it is important for you to be prepared for any outcome." Nwabueze felt the room spin as the news sank in. He had no idea Juliet was pregnant. The realization that they could lose the baby before even knowing it existed was overwhelming. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "Thank you for telling me, doctor. Please do whatever it takes to save the both of them." The doctor nodded. "We will. You have my word." Leaving the office, Nwabueze felt a heavy burden settle on his shoulders. Not only did he have to ensure Juliet's recovery, But now there was a fragile new life at stake. As he walked back to Julia's room, he vowed to be strong for both of them, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Back in the room, he sat by Juliet's side, watching her sleep peacefully, unaware of the additional worry now weighing on his heart. He gently placed a hand on her abdomen, silently praying for their unborn child. This unexpected turn of events only strengthened his resolve to protect his family and bring peace to their home. As he sat there, the door creaked open. His father and Uchenna entered, carrying the items they had gone to collect. Seeing the look on Nwabueze's face, his father immediately sensed that something was wrong. Nwabueze, what is the matter? His father asked gently. Nwabueze looked up, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and determination. Papa, the doctor just told me Juliet is pregnant. But there is a chance we might lose the baby because of the trauma she just went through. His father and Uchenna exchanged shocked glances. His father placed a comforting hand on Wabuze's shoulder. We will get through this together. Stay strong for your wife and for your unborn baby. They both need you now. Wabuze nodded. He would do everything in his power to ensure that his wife and unborn children are safe. Nwabueze sat by Juliet's side deep in thought. He had always played it safe, striving to keep the peace and honor his mother and father as the Holy Book commanded. But now his stance for peace was endangering his home and putting the lives of the people God has placed under his protection in danger. He could no longer play it safe. The Holy Book also said, a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. This was where he had to start. Nwabueze had put off building his own personal house to avoid creating a sense of separation, opting instead to renovate and modernize his father's old house. He had changed the structure and added more rooms so that everyone could be comfortable and live together. But he now saw that two could not work together unless they were in agreement. The peace he had tried to maintain by asking his wife to endure his mother's mistreatment had nearly cost her life, and now their unborn child was also at risk. Obreze knew he could no longer put anyone before his wife, and now his unborn child. If protecting his family meant causing upheaval, then so be it. A man could only take so much. He stood up then, resolute in his decision. This was the best way to start the process to true peace. Even if it meant bringing war into his father's house, he would no longer allow his mother's behavior to jeopardize his family's safety. Obreze left Juliet's side momentarily to make a phone call. He contacted a trusted architect he knew to begin plans for a new home, a place where he and Juliet could raise their children in peace, away from the toxic environment that had nearly torn them apart. Returning to Juliet's room, he found her awake, her eyes filled with concern. She reached out and took his hand. Sweetheart, what is the matter? He sat beside her, taking her hand gently. I have made a decision. We can't live like this anymore. I am going to build us a new home, away from the constant conflict. You and our children deserve that. Enough of all this unnecessary trouble. I don't want you in the same compound or immediate space with them anymore. Tears welled up in Juliet's eyes, but this time they were tears of relief. Thank you. Thank you so much, my sweetheart. I have been so scared returning to the house. But knowing you are taking this step means everything to me. He leaned in and kissed her forehead. I promise you things will change from here henceforth. You will have the life you deserve as my wife. Thank you. Thank you for putting up for my sake. Thank you for putting up with all that my family has done to you. I know it must not have been easy, but you endured for the sake of the love you have for me. I will cherish the sacrifice and ensure you never have to go through this again. Juliet nodded, feeling grateful and overwhelmed. But looking at her husband's face, she saw that something else was still bothering him. He had denied it at first when she asked, but she insisted, and he budged at last. There is something the doctor told me, and I would like you to remain calm, because all hope is not lost. He paused to get her consent. She nodded, feeling anxious suddenly. The doctor said you're pregnant. What? Juliet screamed. scrambling to sit up. But Nwabueze held her down and told her to relax or he won't finish what he was telling her. So she laid back and stayed quiet. But as a result of this trauma you just suffered, the baby might be at risk. But all hope is not lost, like I said, he quickly added when she turned to look at him with panic. What does that mean? Juliet asked. But before Nwabueze could answer, the doctor walked in for his ward round. I can see you are doing much better, he said with a smile after checking her charts. My husband said I might lose my baby, doctor. Please tell me that is not true, Juliet said, her voice catching on the last note. She had tried her best not to cry since they walked in, but she couldn't hold it in anymore. Please calm down. You have to remain calm for the sake of your baby, okay? Unable to speak, she nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks as her husband held her. Your charts this morning and the examinations I just conducted is promising, the doctor said gently. But you have a duty to help yourself and your baby. Okay, Juliet and Nwabueze chorused. You need to maintain a calm and peaceful atmosphere for your baby to be able to return to normalcy. If you are always agitated and troubled, it is going to add to your stress level. And this will not be good for the baby because your body will seek to eliminate anything it sees as a threat to your well-being. You need to help your body protect your baby by keeping your stress level as low as possible. Is that okay? Yes, Dr. Juliet said, wiping her eyes, making up her mind to do exactly as the doctor suggested. After answering a few other questions, the doctor bid them a good day and left to other rooms and wards. When they were finally alone, Juliet turned to Nwabueze and said with a note of finality, I am not going back to that house again until I have delivered my baby. I will go to my mom's place once I am discharged, and I will remain there until you have finished with the new house. Nwabueze agreed with her, feeling relieved. He had been thinking about how to go about it too. Her decision was okay with him because at her mom's place, she will be attended to and given the peace she and the baby needs to thrive. With a newfound sense of purpose, Nwabueze began the process of building their new home. He knew it wouldn't be easy and there would be resistance, especially from his mother, but he was determined to see it through. His family's future depended on it. The days turned into weeks as construction on the new house began. Nwabueze made sure to oversee every detail, ensuring that it would be a sanctuary for his family. During this time, Juliet's health improved and the risk to the unborn baby decreased. The doctor confirmed that the baby was now out of immediate danger, bringing immense relief to both Juliet and her husband. When the day finally came for them to move into their new home, Nwabueze felt a mix of emotions. He was sad to leave the house he had grown up in, but he knew this was the right decision for his family. As they settled into their new space, a sense of peace and security enveloped them. Nwabueze looked around at his new home, then at Juliet, who was arranging their things with a contented smile on her face, her big belly protruding. The baby will arrive in a moment, which is why he hastened the completion of the house. He would not like his first seed birthed outside his own house, where he could afford to give them a roof over their head. When he had informed his father about his intention to start a new building, the old man had known what informed that decision, but knowing that did not stop him from objecting to it. After the event of Juliet's hospitalization, he had realized a few things himself and had come to certain decisions on how his house would be ordered. He knows he had not protected his son as much as he would have wanted or think he should have, but he felt at the same time that the boy needed the tough experience to make him a man as his first seed. He couldn't allow room for a weakling, but looking back now, he realized that he had isolated Nwabueze, and this will not go well if anything happens to him tomorrow. His family may break apart, and it would have been nobody's fault but his. So here Nwabueze's plan to build a new house for himself and his family is only a confirmation to what he had known for a while. He only thought he had time to correct some of the errors he had condoned against this child, but he had to try no matter what, no matter how late it may seem now. He cleared his throat and turned to his son. Nwabueze, you are my strength, and pride. You have never given me reason to sorrow or hide my face in shame. Instead, you have brought honor, wealth, and dignity to me and my house. It shall be well with you, my son, he declared. Amen, Nwabueze said, surprised at the strange way the conversation was going. He had expected a little objection, but not this. He nevertheless bent his head to receive the unexpected praise and blessings from his father. Chukwudi continued, your children will give you peace. They will bring honor to your bosom and cause you to walk with your head high by their achievement. Amen, Nwabueze shouted. Where's my son? His father called, concluding his prayers. Yes, Papa. Why do you want to break away from your father's house? Are you not the one that renovated and expanded this house so that everyone can be comfortable and happy? Has the house suddenly become too small for you? No, Papa, Nwabueze said, already prepared for this. This house is still big enough in size, but it is no longer safe. Chukwudi's heart skipped as he heard that. He bent his head, but said nothing, giving room for Nwabueze to say his mind. While I was growing up, I endured a lot of things, but I swallowed it all because you said I had to in order to become a man. His father nodded, raising his head, his countenance thoughtful. But Nwabueze continued, when I got married to my wife, I know how many times she came crying to me to go rent a flat for her, as the maltreatment was too much. But I begged her to forgive and manage my mother like that. All this is to maintain the peace I thought was my responsibility. But not now, not anymore. Even her life, and possibly that of my unborn children, have been compromised. If I keep quiet, Papa, and allow this to go on, then I am no longer the man you always wanted me to be. I am not trying to break the family. I am not running away. I am only going to build on my land that is opposite this very house. I just want to protect my wife and innocent unborn children. But my son, how can you say anyone in this house wants to harm your wife and your unborn children? You know very well what happened was an accident. Your mother would never, your mother never intended for it to happen so. Papa, you see what happened that day. I will revisit it at the right time. But that is not why I am here. I just came to inform you of my plans and decisions, and I would appreciate it if you give me your blessings. Chukwudi, knowing that he cannot force the matter, let it be, so that he will not push the already grieved child further away from him. Like he rightly said, he is not running away, and at the right time, this matter will be addressed again. At least he chose to develop the land closest to the family house than the others which are located in further places. It is all right, my son, he said to Nwabueze. You have my blessings. May all you need to build a good house for your family come easy to you. It is well with this endeavor. Amen. Amen. Thank you, Papa, Nwabueze had said happily, glad that this hurdle had been overcome. Ines was his mother, but she doesn't know what is waiting for her. He had gone straight to his mother's room then to inform her as well. It's better to deal with the whole thing in one day. And as expected, she had raised dust. And when shouting couldn't solve it, she had started crying. All through this drama, Nwabueze never uttered a word or gave away a single reaction. Do you hate me now? She had asked. Do you hate your own mother now? I didn't hurt your wife, oh. I can't even explain what happened. 1 minute, Nwabueze had stood up at this point and said with a note of finality, I didn't come to ask for your permission. I am only here as a courtesy call. And no, I don't hate you. I'm only planning for my own family now. You of all people should understand that more than anyone. When she didn't say anything else, he stood up and went his way. So looking at his wife now in his house, so happy and relaxed, with his baby thriving in her womb, made him feel as though he had achieved a great feat. And for the first time, Nwabueze felt a sense of true peace. His stance for peace had evolved from enduring conflict to taking bold actions in order to protect his family. And in doing so, he had found a strength within himself he never knew existed. The battle had been won, not through violence or conflict, but through courage, love, and the unwavering resolve to put his family first. But he knew there is still a war to be won. He had put off confronting his mother and sisters over the matter that led to the hospitalization of his wife until his wife safely put to bed. Until then, he will bank his anger. His mother had never hidden her hatred of him, not for as long as he could remember. The reason behind it was a mystery that gnawed at him daily. He had asked his father if she was truly his biological mother, and his father had assured him that she was, and dismissed his concern as whining over little discipline. If you cannot handle your mother's ways, how do you hope to live with a woman tomorrow for the rest of your life? His father had chided him. Once, after a particularly harsh and unfair treatment from his mother, he had mustered the courage to ask her directly why she hated him. Her reaction was dramatic and intense. She had collapsed to the floor, wailing loudly, and she refused to stand up until the extended family and the women known as Umuada gathered. Nwabueze was publicly fined for disgracing his mother, and as punishment, he was flogged by the youth. After that painful incident, he had never dared to ask that question again. As a result of the beatings and the constant mistreatment, he never understood why his mother despised him so much more than his siblings. He had always tried his best to show them how much he loved them, even though it seemed futile. He made sure to respect his parents and support his family, believing that one day his effort would soften his mother's heart. But no matter what he did, the animosity remained, casting a shadow over his childhood and adolescence. This inescapable hatred had shaped much of Nwabueze's character, had driven him to work hard and prove his worth. He had learned to endure pain and hardship without complaint, hoping that his perseverance would earn him some semblance of affection, or at the very least, acceptance. His father's words often echoed in his mind, reinforcing the notion he had to endure this treatment as a form of preparation for challenges. But as he grew older, he began to realize there was a deeper pain beneath his mother's harshness, a pain he couldn't quite understand, but felt deeply in every interaction with her. The mystery of his mother's hatred continued to haunt him, even as he achieved success and wealth, becoming the breadwinner of the family. Question lingered. Why did she hate him? This unanswered question became a silent burden he carried, one that influenced his decisions and relationships. Now, as he has built a new life with Chile, he hoped to find the peace and acceptance that had eluded him for so long. He was determined to create a loving and nurturing environment for his wife and children, free from the toxicity that had plagued his own upbringing. Yet, the mystery of his mother's hatred remained unsolved. A week after they settled into their new house, Juliet went into labor and delivered a baby boy. Nwabueze, who had gone to supervise the offloading of his latest shipment, rushed to the hospital as soon as he received the news. He arrived just in time to see his newborn son being brought out. As he was handed his baby, Nwabueze felt a rush of emotion unlike anything he had ever experienced. The world seemed to turn on its axis, but instead of feeling dizzy, he felt exhilarated and awed. He couldn't take his eyes off the tiny squeezed human in his arms. It wasn't until his mother-in-law handed him a tissue paper that he realized that he was crying. He gave the baby to her, suddenly remembering that he had yet to see Juliet. He looked towards the direction of the delivery room worriedly, wondering what is taking them so long. The worry and fear gradually enveloping the joy he had felt at the sight of his son. But an hour later, the doctor stepped out, all smiles. Congratulations, Mr. Nwabueze, he said, stretching his hand for a handshake. Thank you, doctor. Please, how is my wife? Oh, she's in her room. There was a little delay with the afterbirth, but everything is fine now. Can I see her now? He said, not believing anything until he had seen with his own eyes. Of course, she's asking for you and the baby. Nwabueze hurried into the room where Juliet lay, exhausted but radiant. Her face lit up when she saw him. Nwabueze rushed to her side, taking her hand in his. Juliet, you did it. Our son is very handsome, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Juliet smiled weakly, squeezing his hand. I am glad you're here. Have you seen him yet? Yes, yes, I have. He is perfect, just like you, Nwabueze replied, kissing her forehead. They sat together in silence for a few moments, savoring the joy of their new arrival. The hardships they had faced seemed to melt away in the light of this new beginning. The arrival of their son marked a fresh start for their family, one filled with hope and promise. Nwabueze's mother-in-law entered the room holding the baby. Here he is, the newest member of the family, she said, placing the baby in Juliet's arm. Juliet cradled her son, her eyes filling with tears. Welcome to the world, little one, she whispered, kissing his cheeks. Nwabueze watched them, his heart swelling with love and pride. This was the family he had always dreamed of, the family he had fought so hard to protect. He vowed to be the best husband and father he could be, ensuring that his son grew up in a home filled with love and security. As they settled into their new roles as parents, Nwabueze and Juliet found strength in each other. Their love and determination had carried them through difficult times, and now it would guide them as they embarked on this new chapter of their lives. In the quiet moments of the night, as Nwabueze held his sleeping son, he reflected on the journey that had brought them here. He realized that the challenges they had faced had only made them stronger and more united. The future was bright, and he was ready to embrace it with open arms, confident that together they would overcome anything. When their baby turned 3 months old, preparations began for the traditional mother and baby outing. In their community, it was customary for a new mother and her child to remain indoors for the first 3 months after birth. This period was believed to allow the baby develop enough immunity and strength to face the world and give the mother time to recover fully before rejoining society. This outing was a significant event, often celebrated with a grand ceremony depending on the family's financial status. Nwabueze was determined to make this event the most extravagant the community had ever seen. As part of the preparations, he needed to get his birth certificate to confirm something. Growing up, he had often asked to see the document, but his requests were always met with vague excuses. Eventually, he gave up asking, but now it was essential to have it in hand to ensure that his full and accurate names would be recorded on his son's registration at the local government office. He went to his father, but his dad told him where to go and check in his mother's room, saying that the certificate should be in a particular cupboard. His mother wasn't home at the time, so he went to get it himself. Getting into her room, he opened the said cupboard in a hurry to finish up before she comes back, because he was not in the mood for any trouble in this happy period. Hoping to avoid any confrontation, he quickly rummaged through the cupboard. He found the file containing his birth certificate. However, as he pulled it out, a photograph and a piece of paper fell to the ground. Nwabueze hurriedly picked them up, his curiosity awakening when he saw a reflection of the picture. He turned the photograph over and saw something written on the back. Please give this picture to Michael, my son, and tell him about me when he grows up. I want him to remember me. Nwabueze stared at the photograph, a wave of nostalgia washing over him. Though he couldn't place why, the woman in the picture was unfamiliar, someone he had never seen before. So why he felt a strange connection to her was shocking, but he shook it off, returning the photograph and note to their place in the cupboard. He found his birth certificate, tucked it away under his arm without examining it, because he was in a hurry to leave the room. But he had no intention of returning the said document now he had it in his possession. Back at his house, Nwabueze sat in his private office and finally took a good look at the birth certificate, wondering what the big deal had been in keeping it hidden from him all these years. He scanned the document, noting his full name, Nwabueze, Michael. He frowned slightly at the middle name. He didn't recall ever being called Michael, but he continued reading, his attention drifting until he reached the section listing his mother's name. There, in clear print, it read, Mother's name, Eunice Amara. Nwabueze froze, staring at the picture in disbelief. He knew his mother's name had always been Ifoma Abigail, not Eunice Amara. His mind raced, trying to make sense of what he was saying. Who was Eunice Amara? Did his mother do a change of name? If yes, why? All these and more questions fought for space in his head, his heart pounding. He put the document down, confusion and a creeping sense of dread filling him. The photograph and the note came rushing back to his mind. The words on the back of the photograph echoed in his head. Michael, my son. If his mother didn't do a change of name, and there was another woman called Eunice Amara, and by some twisted mystery, this Eunice Amara was his biological mother, then who was the woman he had called mother all his life? And why had this truth been hidden from him? As the question swirled in his mind, he realized that everything he thought he knew about his life, his family, and his identity was now in doubt. The discovery opened a door to a past he had never known existed, and he wasn't sure he was ready to walk through it. The questions had lingered for too long, plaguing his mind and heart. This new discovery has shaken him to his core, making it impossible to bury his suspicions anymore. This mystery could no longer be ignored or pushed away, he thought to himself, coming to a decision. He needed answers. So this is the end of Act 1. I hope you've enjoyed the story so far. Please stay tuned for the second part. The Lord bless you. Amen. Bye.